Hello, and welcome all to another episode of Myths and Magic. Your Lord, your Savior, Leonard will be with you momentarily. But first, he has urged me to remind all of the viewers to please keep their pens out, their notebooks open, and their clothes fully on. On this channel, you will be discussing the many matters of myths, of magic, and everything that is wrapped up within those two subjects. We urge all of you to please, if you are underage, have a consenting adult next to you to guide you through these processes. There have been many mistakes in the past by people not being prepared for what fully happens through these episodes, but your Lord and Savior, Leonok, will do everything in his power to ensure that all of you have a wonderful experience. So, without further more delay, keep your wands up, your roads on, and your minds open. For your hearts welcome, your Lord, your Master, Leonard!
Is the eye of a tiger with the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rivals? Hello, everyone! Woo! I know you're like, what's wrong with your face? I lost some weight. Welcome to the recording. Welcome to the video. It is I, your Lord, your Master, your host, Leonok, and this is our channel, Myths and Magic. Welcome, everyone. Woo! I'm so happy because not only are you here, but we are here. I am here, and I've had somewhat of a, fantastic week. So, I believe I can, I guess I could just simply speak on it. So as for the song, you're very welcome. I've been working on it quite some time. But no, actually, really, I just finished watching the latest season of Cobra Kai, and I was like, oh my god, it's sort of become this whole thing. That started a few years ago, and everyone's sort of excited about it. And I was like, this would be fantastic, So they came up with the latest season rather recently, and I was like, I have to watch this. And honestly, I love it. All the characters I love, have them on Instagram or whatever it is. They've all grown quite a bit. You sort of see them, they're more, some of them are a bit more built. Other ones are a bit more, serious, things of that nature. It's honestly a lot of things, but what I like about it though is that, it still maintains its sort of, I guess, humility. It's sort of, humanity. It's not some, overarching drama like those disgusting reality shows we have everywhere. I honestly can't stand it. But what I like about it is that sort of, it tries to tie in things like family, things like, life, even things like what you're doing to help you, deal with that sort of life. Although the whole scandal with the main character, well, with the main, I guess, villain for that thing is insane. The lengths that he absolutely went to was absolutely preponderous. For karate, I'm like, for a martial art, I'm like, seriously. I mean, for him, it's this whole global aspect. He wants his dojo everywhere. This whole thing, and I don't believe I'm big enough in spoilers at this point. I haven't even mentioned any names, but he wants world domination. The oldest trope in history when it comes to things like villains, they want world domination. He wants it through this shit, through martial arts. So there's that, so it's absolutely preponderous, and it's ridiculous to say the least. A grown-ass man who's probably in his 60s or so, maybe even older, although he's just good for his age. And honestly, his acting as well as everyone else is brilliant on that show. Marvelous. Stupendous. I could hardly believe. I was like, look, these guys haven't really lost it. But then you wonder why they weren't really involved in any other projects with Hollywood or movies or anything else. And honestly, it's like you sort of feel like, wow, like these people are actually genuinely good actors. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not super serious. Miguel is a fantastic actor. Like you feel his emotions. He's serious about it. There's the Latin blood in him, honestly. I love it. And, honestly, like, he's a very raw character, which is I appreciate about it. He has his serious moments. He has his, funny, playful moments. He even has his more sad moments. He's not afraid to cry, show his emotions. And you can feel the emotions when he's emitting through the screen. It's absolutely phenomenal. For someone his age to be that good and only be involved in sort of TV thing is fantastic, And obviously, you have your favorites like mine. Robbie, of course, everyone loves him. The boy's a stud, to say the least, And he has had a lot of growth within his series, but he doesn't show too much vulnerability. He's a bit more stoic, but you could perhaps lend that to the fact that, he's grown up as a loner most of his life, despite being with his mother, who is with the man every other time. He had a very difficult, hard life, so it sort of hardened him a bit. So he's not as, he doesn't have this emotional well, sort of, just to this outpouring of it, to express himself in this manner. But it sort of makes sense. Miguel, on the other hand, is a bit more, free for his emotions. He's a bit more intact, despite the fact he hasn't had a dad, and things of that nature. A lot of things happen in the show. You have to sort of get used to it. But he's absolutely phenomenal. Sam, I don't even want to talk about. She's absolutely infuriating. Not the actress or actor, the character Sam. Ridiculous. She wants to make everything about her. Even when she's in the wrong, she wants to shift the blame to someone else. They recently had, a thing or whatever it was. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. And she's acting as if it's like not okay. Like you asked for this. And when someone gives it to you, you're upset about it. And you can't take accountability for anything you do. And you want to blame someone else for the fact that they've, adjusted or whatever it is to what you asked for in the first place. And you're acting all like, like, shut up, bitch. You're absolutely ridiculous. She's infuriating. Oh my God, I much more stand Tori over Sam, but Tori's with the bad guys. But she has a lot of legitimacy. She has a character that's growing, well-rounded character within a certain, inclination and stuff. But she's not that infuriating. She's a lot more honest versus Sam is not. Sam is not honest. Tori is, but Tori can be a bit of a bitch about it. But honestly, I was like, you know what? She's upfront. Whatever. Characters are introduced. For those of you who don't know, Sam's fat, skunk of a brother has sort of like grown up. He's sort of, he's sort of, expanded, well, in the opposite direction. He looks good though. Good for him. Good for you, buddy. I'm happy for you. And, there's a lot of things. Hawkeye is another favorite. Things like Hawkeye, I'm sorry. Hawk. He's another favorite of mine. His nerdy friend, like the other one, I could care less about him. He simply talks just for the sake of it. He gets called out on it, honestly, in this current season. But I'm just like, yes, whatever. I mean, good for you. You can fight now, But it didn't get rid of his character, which I guess shows that he's a bit true to himself and true to the people he's with. So there was that whole thing. But there's a lot of characters in there. No one that was introduced this current season or last season. And there's a lot of things, that I find absolutely wonderful. So it's good to see that, But honestly, all of these people are phenomenal actors. I was like, bravo, you fucking done it again, Netflix. I don't even know where you get these people from. When it comes to like where they get these shows from. But it goes to show you, okay, there's so many people out there with the potential, with the magical capability of delivering a script, of acting. The problem is that Hollywood is so fixated upon a certain genre of people, a certain aspect that they sort of want everyone to sort of aspire to. They have their whole demographic. It's changing, but they're forcing it. No one likes it. I won't even get into the whole Ariel thing, because it's mixed about it. I can simply give you the viewpoints of both sides on it, and then you can think about whatever you like, okay? My stance on mermaids. I'm not against them, but whatever it is, for the most part, they can be quite evil. There's a reason why they get confused with sirens, for a bunch of reasons. And I simply am not going to get into it. I mean, honestly, does anyone watch this channel? Probably not, but if you do, you can sort of understand the viewpoints. I'm not really one for either side because I understand both sides. Like I said, I am a bridge. Okay, that's as part of my belief system, my custom, it's weaved into my manner. I am a piece of the tree in the center. I'm like, look, I can't pick a twig or a branch because I'm connected to all of them. I can't simply pick one and favor one over the other. I mean, if a branch is rotting, it has to get cut off at a certain point, but it doesn't mean I don't like that branch or I don't bear a connection. It's just a certain thing where people, they like to have diametrically opposed ideals and you're either one or the other. But, real people, real thinkers understand that there's more to life. There's more to just a gray area. Nothing is black and white, no matter how much you want it to be. Nothing is black and white, okay? There are certain aspects and things and ideals and beliefs about anything and everything that you can find a sort of mid-ground on, But it is insane with that whole thing. Should I go into it? I don't even know. I mean, I guess just to, not bring it up any further, it's just a lot of things. It's going to be one of those videos. So I guess I can just go into it a bit, and I have friends out there that watch this. Good for you. Like I said, I'm just bringing up the viewpoints of both sides because we have to have a proper dialogue about these sort of things. You have to understand each viewpoint in order to attack it properly. You can't simply attest to simply one thought process without considering another one and the facts and validities behind it, okay? So, for the most part, we can argue the whole, Blariel thing, which one of my friends liked, the Black Ariel thing. Honestly, acting used to be, I'm putting this in the center, okay? For those of you who study William Shakespeare, you understand that for some of his playwrights, he didn't have actual women play the women roles. There was a certain, rule of law in society. The men had more liberties, the women were a bit more restricted. And this meant for a lot of things. So for playwrights and things that he would compose or come up with, they would have men play women roles in the acts. But everybody at that time knew that the person was not who they were portraying. They were looking at the character themselves to carry along the story. The men were dressed in drag or whatever it was. If they have to kiss, I believe they could do that. But or they would, simulate a kiss or things of that nature to sort of carry the story along. The people are watching this and they are focused on the story of the characters themselves. They're focused on the story. That's what matters. As long as you have anybody that is willing and does the role correctly as intended, that's what should matter. However, over time, people have found, identifiers. They sort of identify with certain characters. And there are certain abilities or affinities that they attribute to either sexes, races, or whatever they want to call it, even things like genders. Over time, that sort of thing sort of changed a bit. And they were like, well, I don't think it's right. We're like, well, it was this. After, women were a bit more, free in our society because they weren't before. It was like, look, we can start incorporating them into movies. It doesn't have to be simply a male-dominated area. So, of course, since we already have women available, and women are good actors, okay? We can just have them play the female role, and that's the end of it, and they do the whole thing, And then sometimes for operas and things of that nature, even Phantom of the Opera, for example, there is a scene during an intermission within the actual opera itself where the main diva, Christine, she plays a boy in a skit with the woman she hates and everyone hates, as someone who is masquerading as a maid, but who is having an affair with a married woman in it. So she is a female playing a male, I guess, role or whatever it is. She identifies as a woman and everything else. But it's in the opera. It's an old opera. So it's in there. So again, it shouldn't matter. But for a lot of people, it does for these sort of reasons. So for example, people say it doesn't matter. And on one hand, they're right. But on the other hand, let's say, for example, if the whole thing with blackface, that was a whole thing. They're like, it should matter, But then again, you have white people putting on blackface acting like black people, or I guess the portrayal of black people within their media. And people didn't like that. Like, you shouldn't do that. It was the same thing with Native Americans that they would portray, or even Latinos that they would portray too, because that was a whole thing, But now they're like, it should matter. I'm like, well, it did before, but now it doesn't. So then later on, they're like, look, we need equal representation in movies, fast forward, right? So you have a black person in a movie, awesome. Latinos in movies are not as common, but I won't get into that. I still don't know why, as if Latinos weren't here for like as long as everyone else was. Hello South America, hello America in general, whatever. I want to get into it because it's a fiasco. But you have this whole thing, and I get it. It should matter. But then again, you have something like the Black Panther, for example. You'd be up in arms if they had a white person play the Black Panther because historically it's always been a black person. Green Lantern, not so much. We have a black Green Lantern, we have a white Green Lantern. Superman's from Krypton, a dominantly white race, as far as we know. I don't know. But up to black Kryptonians, whatever. It's simply a race. It's a piece of people. That's all that matters, But then there's that aspect. Oh, no, it's not the same thing. I mean, it is, technically. I mean, Jesus was not white. He was born in the Middle East, so he can't be white. The Bible even describes his skin of being bronze and stuff, his hair like wool. That doesn't really fit the whole, white thing. So, there's things like that, but they've always portrayed Jesus as white, and people have accepted that, but now they have an issue with him being black or anything else but white, and they haven't read the source material, because before it didn't matter, right? That's the thing. Ariel, as far as what I understand, in the story from which it was written by white authors, in a different part of the country, all they probably had was probably white. So they identify with whatever there was even in their mythology. Okay, I think they did describe what she looked like within their book, so it makes sense to incorporate that into the movie. So when Disney made the cartoon version, they sort of, pulled from that, and they sort of, wrote it in as however they saw it. And technically, does that make her minority because she is sort of a ginger? Technically, yes. People see gingers and they assume they are just, it's another shade of white, doesn't matter, but they identify as something different. So then there's this thing, well, look, by making her a different minority over another one, you're sort of stepping over one minority to promote another one. And you're just blanketing them as just being another type of white person. It doesn't matter, despite the fact that the source material describes otherwise. But it's according to their source material, okay? Mermaids are mythological creatures. I would know. They come in many different colors, shapes, and sizes. But if you're pulling from a book like all those comic nerds that want a specified, role as how Iron Man is supposed to be, Hulk, Thor, Loki, everyone else, there in those movies, they're fixated upon what the character's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, and then they do all this thing. You're all hypocrites. The whole thing is hypocritical, okay? If you can't see one other side's point, then you are blind to your own side. You're blind to your own vision. You can't do that because then you start forming biases and then you start ignoring facts or everything else. I think the whole thing is stupid. It should be simply based on if you're good at what you're doing. You're portraying a character. That is what it used to be. But over time, because people identify with something in these characters, I don't know why, because she looks humanoid. If she was a fish, period, no one would give a shit because we're not animals, despite whatever some people believe. In that sense. But that's my take on it. I'm simply giving you the both sides, Switz. But I get it. It should be about the characters. It should be about acting and everything else. However, when you pull into things how they were portrayed, how they were described, and how things should follow the source material, like how comic book nerds complain, how even people that, read religious books complain about certain things, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. My point is, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. I don't care. I don't care. As long as it's good. Would I watch it? Yes. But who's going to play Ursula? Because honestly, if you guys have watched the Little Mermaid musical that they had on Disney Plus, it was trash. It was absolute garbage. The only thing good about it was Queen Latifah. I was like, yes, Queen, slay. It was disgusting. The acting was piss poor. The lead actress or actor, which is what whatever. She did a good job, but she was like, meh, I didn't care for it. And the whole thing, well, we're going to watch parts of the movie and then parts where there's a musical number. We're going to have people come out. I guess that's fine. But the entire play isn't even that long. The movie isn't super long. And that's normal. The movie normal time is even short compared to other operas or musicals of that nature. They could have just done the whole thing, but they didn't. They wanted to sort of move it along, have a sort of film thing. And then Sean Paul, really? Because Sebastian has a Jamaican accent, and you guys didn't even talk about Sebastian. He's a crab with big lips, and he's portrayed and talk about whatever. I guess that's diverse, but he's a crab. He's a crab. But they had Sean Paul in there, who did disgusting as well. Okay, he's not really much of a dancer. He's not this big thing, but it was for kids, and it was making him money, so he did it. I was like, look, he's wearing red, whatever. He wasn't even in a crab costume. You're not even in the right character. But that's the whole thing. But yes, so like I said, I don't super care. I understand the points of each side, but I'm like, we need to get over this. Hocus Pocus is coming out soon. That's what I'm looking forward to. Aren't you all looking forward to that? I know I am. So, you probably noticed. Guess who's here? Boy. He's returned to me. I love you. Where were you? I know we're getting a makeover. Look at it. Oh my god. Okay, so this is what happened. So I was doing my own thing. This whole video is a catch-up, by the way. It's just me ranting. And I was just doing proper research, practicing the craft, everything else. And I was like, wait, where did book go? And then book, of course, left a message in its pages. And it was like, look, I feel a bit, plain on the backside. I want to get a bit of a makeover. I'm like, you sure? He was like, yes, I know, I apologize, I'm not home right now, but I'm simply going out running some errands. So he did, and look, what he went with, he got some bling there. Hello. Good job, buddy. Mwah. Have a good one. Yeah, bye. I'm insane. Yeah. But yeah, so I know I've ranted and rambled on, but I think it's a good time that I do a proper catch-up video. Oh yeah, so back home, if you all know, we are approaching the time of Kosati Sela. The dark harvest is upon us. It's going to come, I believe, in a month or so. So I was pretty much prepping back home for that. You here have your sort of thing happening as well. So, you're all pretty much excited about it. There is a festival coming up, technically a feast, fellow practitioners. Oh God, what's it called? It started with an M. I can't remember. I'm so bad at it. But unfortunately, I'm practicing it much because, I'm still sort of, learning, the rules that, you do, fellow practitioners do here. I'm from a different realm. We have different rules, different celebrations, different things. So it's a whole thing. And yes, Verde Sela happened. And I did not do a video on it because I did one before. Okay. It was, what was it? Last year? So, God, it's been such a long time. I did it. I was like, you know what? Whatever. It's the whole thing. You guys know what we do. I explained on the video. I'll probably put the link here. I don't know, over there, wherever, just to so you explain to you what it's about and what we do with the tree, with the 8 people around the tree. It's whatever. There's that. So I have that going on there. What else was I going to talk about? It was some catching up things. What was it? Book it. What is this? Let's see here. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yes, so so the school semester here has started. We've been going on for quite some time back home. I, as a professor there, have been teaching the students the proper cares when it comes to things like practicing and even things like law or whatever. You remember the girl I told you about that did that stupid thing by reading a book that wasn't hers? So she came back after a while. She had to catch up on her studies. And she showed some real growth, and but she did it again. She did it again. We have a wild one. We have definitely had a wild one here. I don't know what I'm going to do with her. I'm like, look, either you get your shit together or you're leaving. Okay, you're on notice. Okay, we've informed your parents. You're like, okay, the first time you can shift some of the blame on us, but it's not all of it. It's 50-50. But the second time is definitely her because she knows better. She did it again because she left hers at home. So she wanted to read another person to sort of get something out of the lectures. But she did it again. I think, and this is a high crime where I come from. I don't want to assume anything, but she makes it seem as though she's sort of trying to steal ideas or theories when it comes to the craft for new advancements in spell work or how spell works work. Each person, the way they do things is affixed to their person. It's attuned to them. When you do something like this separate, you have no connection to what the person did or the work, and you're doing it correctly. And, these disasters happen, so she did it again. It wasn't as bad as the first time, but there was a fiasco. Apparently, some of the girls next door got naked. I don't know what happened. The boys liked it, I was like, put some clothes on, what are you doing? And they're like, we didn't know, it just came off. I was like, wait a minute. I go to the next one, I hear chanting, I'm like, she did this again. Of course her clothes was on, but she couldn't find her. She couldn't find her panties. And then later she goes to the bathroom and she finds them in the toilet. I'm like, I don't know. She said she felt congested. I'm like, that's what you get for reading things around yours. You're absolutely ridiculous. I say you're stupid, but it's mean when it comes from a teacher, a professor. Look, you have to stop doing this. It's your fault. If you do it again, we're going to have to send you somewhere else. So it's a different class, a different level, or disciplinary action has to be taken if you do not want to be expelled. You know who you are. The students know who you are at this point. I can't help you, okay? If you want to essentially prove yourselves in the tournament matches we have at the end of the school year around summertime or so for the break, doing Velda Sela, or now we're having the dark tournament coming up. I forgot about this. So this happens about once a year, obviously, around the time of Kosati Sela. It's a huge feast celebration, right? However, we also have the dark tournament. Now, this is a more adult tournament. Students aren't really allowed to partake in this sort of tournament because this is when adults sort of show off their stuff. and almost anything goes except for anything super lethal. But things that can damage, harm, bruise, it's definitely allowed. So during this time, it only lasts for about a week or so, because it's that dangerous. But it lasts for like, I guess, like the days of the week. And here's the thing. So during Kasati Sela, when we have like the dark harvest of nature, it's very fast. It's similar to what you call Halloween or whatever, but we have a different word and different things and styles we do over there. During that time, it is a festival, a celebration that we do. Uh, we have things like dark workings that are done, but that's the thing. People have a bad connotation about darkness because it's affiliated with evil. Dark and evil are not the same thing. Darkness can be used by evil, but darkness doesn't mean it is evil. It's simply another man and another orientation of something that has different roles, everything else. Things like fungus or things that decay in life, things like death, they're not inherently evil. They're just a part of the cycle, and they can be used and utilized in any manner that people wish. It's even possible to gain life from death. So it's a whole thing. I want to get into it, but we have this tournament, right? That takes place. It takes place once a year around that time, about a week, however many days that is. And so the thing is, there's probably a lot of adults involved in stuff because they want to let off steam, and that's how they can prove themselves. Sometimes they use it to get promotions at work. Other times, it's to show their stuff and to gain respect among their peers. And it's for them to show their stuff. These are where the advanced levels and forms of magic are allowed to be used in combat within the city. However, this is a highly monitored event. City officials watch it. What else watch it? Senators or people of that nature watch it. Even the people of the royal court watch it as well. It is a highly scried event. However, children are discouraged from watching it, and certain students of a certain age are not allowed to watch it either, because they're going to try some of that shit. The older students, when it has happened in the past, they're a lot smarter with how they're supposed to do it, and they are able to participate in that tournament if they are of an adult age and they sign the waiver for. We do have medics on standby that are there to treat those who are injured or gravely injured if such a thing does sort of escalate. There's a moderator, there's a referee, as you call it, and we have the overseer, who's sort of it is what it is. During this time, there's a certain number. There's about 50 to 100 participants that take in. It lasts 7 days, so you have to sort of go through that each time. Each combat or tournament lasts. There's about maybe 5 to 10 matches a day or so. And it can last for maybe a few hours during a time, but when certain magics are used, the perception of time can actually change as well. Sometimes, if it's a lot more people, it has to be done within a sphere, a chronosphere that can be manipulated. So you can pretty much crank out however many hours, and it feels like almost a day or two can go by within this time if there's too many participants, and then it'll mirror what's on the outside. It's a very complicated thing, but it is essentially a dome that is erected over the arena. It sort of protects the audience viewers from any stray magic or spells, and it can also help manipulate the time within the arena itself to accommodate for the amount of people that are participating. So there's essentially a huge arena that is erected, strictly made out of stone and wood, and it is inscribed with runes and sigils. Okay. Those runes and sigils, when activated upon command by the overseer and a few other officials that are stated by the gates, it erects a barrier that forms around the arena itself, okay, with the audience there to control the time and make sure everything falls well. Within the inner circle in the actual dueling area, there is a secondary barrier that is erected to protect the audience from whatever is happening inside. Okay? These matches are not timed, which is why the things like time or the sphere are used in effect. They help shift the perspective, and if things are going very slowly within the arena, it helps speeds it up for the viewers that are watching. And no one's affected by this sort of time thing. They're sort of protected by the effects of time by wearing specialized amulets or tools that sort of shield them from the aging processes that come with time. There's sort of things that they have to wear for this competition. They can't take it home with them because these are restricted items outside of the arena. If anyone's come with these items, they get written up, they get fined, and they can even do some time. This is serious work. No one can work with time magic or time amulets. Some people are sellers, but they are, They are certified sellers. They are licensed sellers. And those things are incredibly expensive, which I don't really recommend to buy anyway. So it's a whole tournament that happens around Kosati Sela. People go in. Bad things happen all the time. I'm a participant. I am a professor, so I watch it all the time. Some gruesome things happen in this tournament, okay? Students Do not even think about even attending or going here. If you're curious, you have to wait till you're of age, which is 21 is the adult age in my realm. Okay, 21. It happens to be the same, though we do age a lot slower, but that's essentially what it is. So that is the time frame that you are allowed to go. We have people that have, age. We have age gauges, which is something that they put on a person to determine what age they actually are so that they're not using magic to try and get in. We have our precautions and our things in place. But the winner of this tournament gets a huge amount of sum and they get shares and things of that nature. So that's pretty much how the Kosati tournament works. At first, it's a huge group. It's sort of a battle royale at first, okay? Then out of, like, let's say we have 20 people, 10 are the ones that are selected. After the duel is over, they stop the duel, and then they have the next 10 go into, like, their duels and things of that nature, okay? Every now and then, and this is a special part that everyone loves, we have what's called a special event that happens at random. Sometimes it doesn't happen here, sometimes it does. When it does, they sort of change the rules, but it's sort of due to popular demand or investors or patrons that put in money or influence to make these things happen. It's starting to happen more and more because people like special events, but sometimes they can be incredibly dangerous. A special event, what this happens is that, like let's say you have two participants, right? And it's a special event, and this can happen randomly within the match. Like let's say they're both duking it out for like maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe longer. And then all of a sudden you hear, whatever. It's like ah, whatever. It changes depending on what the situation is. All of a sudden, a third party enters the arena, and then the two are required to team up against a third party. Sometimes it is a monster or a beast of a specific caliber, and it can be incredibly dangerous. Other times it is another practitioner that has a lot more powerful. Other times the arena or the land changes, and so they have to navigate the landscape within the arena as far as, hurting each other. And sometimes they have stage hazards. That's what happens in there. Like I said, these things are incredibly dangerous, but they are not lethal. But they can do some damage. You won't die from it, but it will be a nasty gash, wound, or whatever it is. There's insurance policies in place, so we have all these things covered. But everyone's excited for that. The last time that happened was maybe 20 years ago, but the reason why it hasn't since then is because it was almost deadly what happened here. So these two participants were fighting and duking it out, and then we hear the horn. Everyone's like, yeah, yeah, woo! And then all of a sudden, they send in a manticore, okay? But it was a manticore that was enhanced with magic. I don't know how this was even allowed. It was an illegal chimera. It wasn't a natural creature. Somehow they were like, this would be interesting. 20 years ago, okay? The problem with manticores is that manticores are strangely resistant to magic, and they're capable of casting magic themselves, and they are extremely powerful physically. It is a triple threat. It's insane. The poison that they can inject into the person can be damn well lethal, and it almost was, okay? The overseer at the time was a bit hesitant at first to stop the match because they thought, okay, we have things in control. But then it got out of hand. The officials by the gates were attacked by the manticore. None died, thankfully. But then the overseer, he has a list of like, I think it's 3 commands or 4 or 5. I can't remember. One of the commands is instant death. I'm not joking. This is serious shit. Okay, this is an illegal animal, a beast that was introduced into the arena for, I guess, a special event. Okay, it was doing damage. It almost mauled one of the participants, and we couldn't have that. We could heal them and everything else, but we don't like to have anything with torture, but it was very bad. And the manticore itself was an absurd size. Do you know the behemoth in Final Fantasy? Similar size. It was insane how large the arena is massive. But this thing I was like, how is this allowed? I was like, this can't be happening. I was ready to jump into the arena and do some damage. I wanted to, oh my God. I was like this. I was like, put me in, coach, but it didn't happen. But then we heard, this is what happened. Everyone's watching, it's going bad. And then all of a sudden we hear this. And we're like, oh no. He gave us the clap. He gave us the clap. He did this. 1, 2. You felt the whole arena vibrate like boom, boom. And then he said I guess like the word of death, or I guess the killing tongue is what they call it. And then he directed at the Manticore, and the Manticore died immediately. We were like, oh, it was, oh my god, it was absolutely insane. You should have been there, but you couldn't because you can't. But it was, oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But it was insane. Afterwards, they blacklisted the special event, at least for putting monsters back into the arena. They reintroduced it after about 15 years or so later. And then 5 years ago, they started bringing them back again. And then you were able to reintroduce beasts or animals, but they had to be legal. Okay? Wow, that was a story I haven't shared with anyone in quite some time. I'm glad you got to hear it, but this is pretty much the end of the video. I've never done it this long, but I got excited. But without further delay, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed my story, my explanations, my brief tirade about the whole Ariel thing, or just the general thing about my comments or whatever, feel free to share it in the comments. Feel free to talk about it amongst yourselves. Think about it. Like I said, this shit is real and it is insane. But that's insane. It's your world. You guys are crazy. So, but yes, but I want to give a huge shout out to my supporters, the sponsors, of course, that aren't on this video. I'm talking about back home, I want to thank all of you. I want to remind the students of my academy that classes resume, I believe, after the break. I think in about maybe 3 to 4 weeks or so, like that. So prepare for that, because then afterwards, you're going to have pretty much a few months off before you have to go back to school again in the winter time, because that's when we start about Christmas time. So so I hope you're all excited for that. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention, I'm considering changing my wardrobe again. I've I've done so many things, so many videos, and honestly, as much as Fabulous Black is, it can be whack a little bit. It's just dull for me. It doesn't show enough detail or anything else. So put in the comments what sort of color or sort of scheme you'd like me to go with for my outfit. I'm sort of leaning towards blue, red, or even green, possibly. So if you care to comment anything, put it in below. Tell me. If not, I'll make up my own mind about it, okay? But thank you to all my lords, my ladies, my wizards, my winners, my losers, my lizards, my rats, and of course, the people that keep their brothers locked in cages. Because we all need to make sure that the young people are properly disciplined and taken care of. They're running amok everywhere. So, yes, so I urge all of you to please, come back next time for a follow-up on what we're going to be talking about. I think I will probably bring up another subject, or perhaps go deeper into someone that's discussed in this video, but probably not. So, but I just want to urge all of you here that if you're new, if you're not, make sure you treat each other with respect, with kindness, with knowledge and consideration, okay? Be the bridges that can connect a world to another. Be the bridge that can connect one view to another. The more all of us are able to understand each other, the more we can achieve a level of peace that we have not witnessed in this world ever. It can be absolutely astounding and absolutely amazing if we can achieve that sort of thing. I want you to please show some restraint. And of course, when it comes to practicing, that you're doing it in safety, whatever it is, okay? Make sure that you are reading your own material, and make sure that you are learning, that you are, aside from practicing, that you are, taking care of yourself, your mental health, spiritual health, your emotional health, your physical as well. Because make sure you're in tip-top shape, because sometimes spells require a bit more magic and physical, and dexterity and stability as well. Okay? Be kind to others, love one another, and remember that on this channel, not only do we seek to make the mundane magical, but we are friends and we are family. And I love you dearly. Goodbye.